With the release of Oblivion Remastered, some people are wondering if playing Skyblivion, the upcoming massive Skyrim mod, is still worth their time. So let's compare the two and talk game design. I'm Olivieri, the creative director at Loreworx, a gaming startup, and if you're new here, I make videos about game design in your favorite games and redesign interfaces showing the before and after. The most fundamental difference between Oblivion Remastered and Skyblivion is in the bones. Remastered uses Oblivion as a base and builds upon it. Skyblivion, on the other hand, brings Oblivion to Skyrim, and this has massive implications. I'm going to talk about these implications and show footage from my remastered gameplay and Skyblivion's videos. Sometimes I'll do a split screen of the two. Because Skyblivion is still in development, I'll be writing the date of the footage on the clip that we use. So let's warm up with the title screen differences, because interface is my jam. Old Oblivion is iconic, but the remaster needed to make this a statement, and the new one looks great. It's one of my favorite types of title screen designs, when you have a cool scene with looping animation. We don't know what Skyblivion's screen will look like, or at least I couldn't find footage of it. Now let's get into loading screens. Old Oblivion's loading screens are legendary, and Skyblivion manages to keep them while tweaking the design a bit. The remaster uses a new loading screen that in my opinion looks nice but feels soulless compared to the originals. The original had style, whereas here we have a screenshot of a 3D environment and the only thing that changes is the sketch inside the canvas. If I were to guess why they went in this completely different direction, I'd say it was because the loading screen needs to pair well with the main menu screen, and keeping the original design would make for a jarring transition. You never want to go from dark to light in a quick transition, as that causes eye strain. Now I'm going to use Skyblivion footage from a quest to get into game design differences. This is the very first Mage's Guild quest, and the spoilers are insignificant. Cities in Oblivion always felt like ghost towns. The inns, in particular, are truly depressing. You still see this in the remaster. This is Coral, and I'm going to the Mage's Guild to start the Fingers of the Mountain quest, just like in Skyblivion. Now, Coral in Skyblivion doesn't look like a bustling town either, but because the game uses the Skyrim engine, you can expect cities and towns to feel livelier, even if it comes with mods after release, simply because Skyrim provides a better framework. The visuals is the most obvious difference between the two. The remaster looks better, like a modern Elder Scrolls title. Now, you can get this kind of graphical fidelity in Skyrim, but it takes a number of mods, and that can be intimidating. But nowadays, you can install 1,000 Skyrim mods with a single button click. It's a matter of time before there are mod collections for Skyblivion, and then it too can look as incredible as the remaster, but for now, the difference is undeniable. The remaster really does look amazing, and this Oblivion-esque dialogue camera showcases it. I'm going to mention mods a number of times here. I mean, these are Bethesda games, and Skyblivion itself is a mega mod. And modding is another big difference between the two versions. Skyblivion uses Skyrim, which means that Skyrim mods will either fully work from the start or require a quick compatibility patch. That said, because it uses the creation engine as its brains, a lot of the old Oblivion mods can be ported over and are being ported over. It's still early, but the Nexus already has more than 1,000 mods, including a script extender. The modding scene for the remaster is going to be great, but that said, Skyrim's modding community is in a league of its own. And here is another difference: quest tracking. Oblivion's quest tracking was a mess, and the remaster is still a mess. Skyblivion uses Skyrim's quest tracking, which means less of not knowing what the hell is going on. And I'm not talking about hand-holding here. I'm talking about clarity, like not having to Google stuff like I did in 2007. Now let's look at the combat differences. It was one of the biggest selling points in a remaster. Combat feels weightier than vanilla Skyrim, and consequently, Skyblivion. Weapon types all have different animations, but blocking feels really bad. And because of that, combat doesn't feel as good as it should. My nerd designer brain wanted to test the fluidity of the blocking, so I filmed a number of weapon swings and their blocking animations. and it can take 2 to 3 seconds to block with a two-handed sword if you are starting a swing. What the game should do is it should interrupt your attack and prioritize blocking, even if it means skipping animation frames. Now that may seem unrealistic, but it makes combat feel more responsive. My favorite playstyle in these games is the stealth archer with a two-handed sword. I use sneak with a bow to pull the enemy, and I whack it with a greatsword when it reaches me. I tried playing the same way in the remaster, but melee combat with a two-handed sword just didn't feel good. So I switched to sword and shield, which felt a lot more responsive. For all the work that Virtuous said they did to modernize melee, I feel like they completely ignored range combat, because it feels horrible. The arrow speed is glacial and the hit sounds are bad, and it makes it feel like you're playing an MMO. And then stealth combat is also completely broken. Enemies don't react to stealth unless you hit them. And sometimes you get a message saying sneak attack for ×1 damage, which, okay. In Skyrim, stealth is also overpowered, but if your arrow hits the wall next to an enemy, that enemy will get spooked and start looking for you. And this will also be the case in Skyblivion. And then there are combat finishers, which aren't in the remastered because they weren't in the original game. They're simply not part of the Oblivion bones. You also can't dual wield in the remaster. Using both hands was a major Skyrim feature. That means you can't cast a spell with your left while attacking with your right, or combine both hands for a more powerful version of a spell. So just like in Old Oblivion, spellcasting is done with a single keybind, regardless of what you have in your hands, kinda like Skyrim shouts. Skyrim's combat framework is objectively better than Oblivion's. The remaster feels better than vanilla Skyrim, and consequently Skyblivion, but adding an established Skyrim combat mod to the Skyblivion experience would raise the bar. And there are many other engine improvements and features that came in the 4 years between Oblivion and Skyrim that are simply not in the remaster. Skyblivion isn't going to simply deactivate those. The mod is adding Oblivion features that were dropped in the Skyrim engine to create an Oblivion experience that is the best of both worlds. Let's compare some Worldspaces now. I tried my best to find the exact locations of these Skyblivion screenshots, but there are a couple, like the Great Forest, where I just went to the region and grabbed the screenshot. It's real tough with no real landmarks. And it's obvious that the remaster looks better. The faraway grass in particular is far superior. But there is one area where the remaster drops the ball for me though. The trees. It seems like it's the lesser version both in variety and quantity. The Great Forest doesn't look like a forest at all, let alone great. Blackwood doesn't look like a dark, moody swamp. The remaster also looks warmer and more desaturated, giving it a more realistic aesthetic, which I personally like. And Skyblivion looks more like a fantasy game, which is actually a lot more faithful to the original game. But again, Skyblivion doesn't just port things over to the Skyrim engine. They tried to make improvements to the original designs. Look at Cloud Ruler Temple. It looks better in the remaster, but it was expanded in Skyblivion and is far more imposing. Ayleid Ruins are scattered all over Cyrodiil and looked and felt very samey in the original game because Bethesda used a tile system to design them. They're just as copy-pasted in the remaster, they just happen to look better. This was a weak point in the original game, and the Skyblivion team knows this. Their version of Ayleid Ruins will vary greatly depending on the region they're in. So if you're in the desert, the Ayleid Ruin will be covered in sand. If you're up in the mountains, it'll be frozen over in ice, and so on. Once again, the remaster looks better, but it's using the Oblivion engine, and with it comes limitations. Skyblivion will look dated unmodded, but will bring with it the improvements of the Skyrim engine and the upgrades from the modding team. Hey, if you like this kind of nerdy game design video, consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. You'll motivate us to make future videos like this one and help us make our own game. And we'll be forever grateful. Now let's finish up with UI UX. It's my thing, but I'm not going to go into too much detail here because this is more of a generalized video. Both Oblivion and the remaster use a single interface design for both PC and console, so scaling is the same for both versions. In 2007, Bethesda didn't have the resolution to fit a lot of things on screen. The Xbox 360 couldn't run games in 1080p. If you play Oblivion today, you'll think the UI scaling is huge. The user experience would also feel like absolute freaking insanity for any modern gamer. I mean, you jumped with E and activated stuff with space. It was some crazy stuff. The remaster modernizes the old interface by mainly adapting it to modern resolutions. You'll see more stuff on screen. The scaling is still too big for PC players though, and the UX could be a bit better. But the help screen is absolutely goated. Designed exactly how I would design it, so take that with a grain of salt, I guess. I would just rename it to Codex and add some lore in there, because people never look at a help screen unless they go 6 months without playing and they need to remember how to loot stuff, I guess. If you call it Codex and you add lore, people might actually check it out. But here's a quick fire list of UI UX tweaks just in case a virtuous dev or modder watches this. The HP, mana, and stamina bars are not center aligned in the inventory. And if you watch my videos, you know I hate things that are not aligned. There's no keybind for canceling a bow shot. Pressing R cancels it, but it also opens the favorites wheel. There's no Bethesda quick loot, which is weird in a modern Bethesda game. You can't select a dialogue option, press continue on pop-ups, or loot individual items with E or space. You have to use enter instead, or move the mouse cursor, which is early 2000s UX. The black box on item hover is annoying as fuck. It should just be the text with a dark outer glow for readability. There's no indication of what you have equipped when you're repairing things, and there's no indication of your favorited items when you're selling things. So you might end up repairing things that you don't have equipped, and you might actually sell things that you don't want to sell. There's no comparison panel or any kind of item comparison info. Skyrim didn't have this either, but you'd see the difference in damage or armor rating values. No item value in buying or selling more than one, forcing you to do the math, which isn't a crime, but it should be. There's no local map keybind, and getting to the local map is annoying as f***. You have to open the world map, then click this tiny little circle, or zoom all the way in. And if you open the map again with M, you get the world map again. And you can't press the same key to close the screen that you just opened. So if I press I to open the inventory window, the game should close it if I press I again. Skyblivion now. They're still working on the UI, but a lot of it is done. Skyblivion is a PC-only mod, which means that they can tweak the scaling to be ideal for PC players, and that makes a huge difference. It gives the modders a lot more flexibility. It also helps that their starting point is SkyUI. It's the greatest interface mod ever published. Like seriously, you cannot go wrong with designing game UIs based off of SkyUI. Skyblivion completely redesigns Oblivion screens. The difference is night and day. They're also using a dark UI color palette, one of the more popular Oblivion mods. This is the perk screen. Perks are expanded in Skyblivion. They're automatic in the remaster. You level skills and automatically unlock them at higher levels. Skyblivion will have those, but here they're showing a perk system that resembles skill trees. And once again, because it's a Skyrim mod, and most Skyrim UI mods are script extender mods, I'm assuming a lot of them will work out of the gate here. That means we can have quick loot in Skyblivion from day one. Probably. So, should you play Skyblivion instead of the Oblivion Remaster? Fuck no, you should play both! Elder Scrolls is my favorite game series, and I've been hungry for a new game since 2011. I've been playing the remaster, and I cannot wait to download Skyblivion when it releases later this year. And hopefully I made the case for you to do the same. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, click this other video because YouTube thinks you're gonna love it. And as always, remember that fun is business, and if you drink, make sure it's not skooma.